yun, magandang gabi. And hello everyone who are here with us right now. And welcome to this week's special edition of the BitPinas Webcast. So I am your host, Michael. I started covering crypto in the Philippines since 2017. And our website is the bitpinas.com is the longest running crypto news site covering crypto, blockchain, Web3 here in the Philippines. So in this past, pace ever evolving world of crypto here in the country, it's very easy to get lost in the information. That's exactly why we are doing this webcast where we get straight to the sources, where we get to speak to the people who are moving this industry, our industry forward. No? And there's really uh, plenty to talk about. In fact, 2 weeks ago, we have this meetup, Bitcoin meetup, live in real life Bitcoin meetup at 3 Start of House Manila, which is co-organized with one of our guests tonight. And we are going to sort of continue the discussion back then into this particular webcast. No? So with that, we are inviting the audience to send in their questions in the comment section during the course of this particular event. No? And as mentioned in our post during our webcast, we have four winners of 100,000 Satoshi. Kayo nang bahala mag-convert during the trivia Q&A, and two winners who will be participating in our comment section. No? So send in your questions. So para tayong may learn and earn. So may natuto ka na dito, may Bitcoin ka pa. So remember that you must be following BitPinas and must have a sharer badge to win. Or also, as a part of this activity, if you found some questions sa comment section, you can also chime in and respond. No? So we want to make this as informative as possible, and that will be our goal. No? So yeah, without further ado, I would like to bring up on stage um, lifelong Bitcoin advocate and host of a series of monthly and almost weekly, I guess, Bitcoin meetups here in Makati, Ramon Tayag. So hi Ramon and
Hi.
welcome to the BitPinas webcast.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Ramon. And now we have Mr. Rafael Padilla, Attorney Rafael Padilla, co-founder of Blockdevs Asia and author of Fintech First Laws and Principles. Now, magandang gabi, Attorney.
Good evening, Mike. Good evening, Ramon. Good evening,
Good evening.
BitPinas community and Crypto.ph. I appreciate the invitation, Mike, and looking forward to our discussions with Ramon and, of course, the community.
Of course, no, thank you so much sa inyong dalawa to have that we have this particular conversation ngayong gabi on a Friday, and so really thank you so much for this, no. So, yeah, we wanted to start this in a way na parang we tackle the most, shall I say, parang beginner questions first, and then we gradually go along, no? And then along the way, when there are questions in the audience, because this is a Bitcoin AMA, which we encourage the audience to ask questions, we're going to highlight that, and you will see the questions on screen, no? So yeah, let's start. No, I want to start with Ramon. So as someone who is deeply involved in the technical aspects of Bitcoin, no? And can you share with us how you first became interested in Bitcoin, and what fascinates you most about blockchain in
Yeah.
particular?
Yeah. So, um, well, one, I want to clarify. I don't like work on the Bitcoin software. I feel like I understand it enough to be able to implement it and use it properly. Um, but my story is very similar to a lot of tech people. They hear about this new virtual currency, and then your my point of view was, is it game currency bato or something, right? And then you're after reading a few articles, you're like, how can this really be decentralized, as they say? Or and so I dove into that. But also, like a lot of tech people, I was looking for the next best thing, right? I was like, I got into all sorts of cryptocurrencies, trying to see what they could do. And then throughout the years, the one thing I realized, I kept going back to Bitcoin. I'll go back to it, and then I'll experiment with something else and go back to Bitcoin until when it was 20 around 2018, when I started the Bitcoin meetup. That's when I decided to focus my time on Bitcoin, right? Because that's the one that I was really most interested in. And I would say that it isn't so much the technology itself that keeps me fascinated. I mean, obviously, it's possible because of the technology, but what keeps me fascinated is like what money's role in society is. So when I start researching about Bitcoin, like those questions naturally pop up, like what is money? What's inflation? Is it true that we really need it? And then like and all sorts of questions related to money and society. and
I
and
see.
that's what keeps me interested till today.
I see. Thank you, Ramon, for that. No, and later I want to discuss about this particular thing about the history of money and Bitcoin. But now with attorney naman, no. So also what got you started in Bitcoin, and I wanted to also include there that since you are a lawyer, you're probably I would like to also have your perspective on Bitcoin on a legal aspect, like how does your initial encounter with Bitcoin have shaped your career right now?
Okay, okay. So, ano bang sagutin ko yung origin story? Parang how did I
I
start?
think
Yun
that's
muna.
the
Yun
question, no?
muna.
Origin story
So,
talaga.
sa akin, it started late 2012, early 2013. There was a Cyprus financial crisis, and one of our clients had a bank account in Laiki Bank. Na haircut, ang tawag nila haircut, basically any funds more than exceeding 100,000 euros will be forfeited. And at that time, we were doing some researches in anticipation for a class action that we will file. And in the course of the research, merong mga lumalabas na news reports about Bitcoin at sinasabi na ang price daw ng Bitcoin at that time is nagsisurge and it is somehow being attributed to many Cypriots moving funds out of Cyprus, no, to protect themselves, no, from the harsh impact of the Cyprus financial crisis. And in my my line of work then, because marami sa kanila mga offshore related na matters, no, naging common yung mga transactions relating to cryptocurrency. But I became interested in Bitcoin, no, primarily in 2015. No. At that time, my sort of gateway drug actually that spiked my interest wasn't Bitcoin, but rather Ethereum. No, because of the concept of smart contract. No, and for a legal practitioner, that was an attractive concept of how you can actually automate the execution of contracts. No, through this technology and of course no the legal consequences of that, no, that was so attractive to me. But because obviously yung relation ng Ethereum, no, as a blockchain which at that time has not launched yet, no, and Bitcoin, na-expose ako sa Bitcoin. And ang nakapag spike talaga ng interest ko sa Bitcoin, specifically I would attribute it to two person. One is Trace Mayer. I love to listen to Bitcoin Knowledge podcast back in the days. Tsaka magaganda yung mga fini-feature niya ng mga guest on. And of course, no, marami nakakilala kay Andreas Antonopoulos. At that time very active siya posting yung mga mga presentations niya on YouTube. Ngayon wala na masyado pero back in the days, papapanood mo pa rin ngayon 'yon, no. So my journey began there. It was also in 2015 when I celebrated my 5th year in legal practice, and I was thinking, no, I thought that was a milestone in my legal practice. Kahit bago pa, I was thinking how I want to move forward with my legal career, no, and that's when I made the decision to specialize in crypto, no? And nung una wala masyadong kliyente, pero after several bull runs, no, doon nagsimula na magkaroon ng clients. And ang nakakatuwa, kahit bear market, marami pa rin namang mga projects who would typically have their own legal concerns, no, that required, no, advice and assistance from legal professional. It was also a validation to me na in our community there is some need naman sa mga legal professionals din. Kasi it was actually a source of my insecurity before na I cannot identify earlier, lalo na nung wala pa masyadong kliyente, parang I cannot identify how can exactly I can contribute in the community. And that is also the reason why I started to organize meetups, no? 2015, 2016, 2017 until mga 2018. Yeah, because I thought medyo wala naman yata ako masyadong maaambag. I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm not a technologist. Pero siguro I can assist, no, help grow the community, no, through organizing. So that's my involvement, no, early here in in crypto PH.
Ayun. Thank you so much, Ramon and Rafael, for those origin story, no? And dagdag ko na rin yung akin na parang I would be honest, no, it was the price at that time. So 2017, talagang it was the time na parang nagkaroon ng medyo mainstream attention. Although if I remember correctly, difference to today, ngayon, parang if you say Bitcoin, parang konti na lang, hindi naman konti, pero I think mas konti yung nagsasabi na scam yan or something before, unlike noong 2017 when it first gathered itong natawag na mainstream attention here in the country, no? So my follow-up question there is, since we're talking about yung origin story and yung Bitcoin origins, no? So when I go to meetups, or when on your meetups, for example, or conferences, whenever people introduce Bitcoin to people, they always start with the history of money. So parang laging doon siya sinisimula na before you understand Bitcoin or before you can understand Bitcoin, kung mahirap siyang intindihan, you have to understand first or know the history of money. Bakit kaya ganun? I guess we can start with Ramon.
I think it's like that because, maraming tao parang through their Bitcoin journey, I suspect this is the case, napansin nila that what was important about Bitcoin was that it was money. And money is really involved in half of all transactions, right? Unless nagbabarter ka, unless nagtitrade ka ng goods, like I'm selling coconuts, you want bananas, ganon, and then we just trade. Money is the other half, right? And as people learn about the history, they also learn that again and again, people are stolen from by the ones who control the mint, right? And it doesn't just happen, like sometimes these happen over hundreds of years. I guess if they're smart, it happens over hundreds of years. So, you don't notice like, uy, 20 years ago, ang mura nito. But the way it would happen in history was it would be slow and then biglang nag-devalue, right? Especially pag there's some war on whatever, like an actual physical war, then they have a reason to print, and then people suffer, and then they realize that that's also what's happening today, right? So that's why I think most people start with money, because it's the price gets you in. I agree. Seyfedin Amus is right. Like, let's be real. If the Bitcoin's price was going down, like consistently going down throughout the years, not many would stay. Maybe very, very hardcore people would stay, mga hardcore libertarians or something like that. But otherwise, like, it's really like fixing the money that makes a lot of people stay.
Ayun. Thank you so much, Ramon, no? And tama din naman yung sinabi mo na if the price is going down, I don't think many people will be looking at it, no? And
Mm-mm.
at least for now, meron na tayong 9 or 10 year history with the charts, and they can see nga na parang it's actually going up, or it goes down ganyan, pero if you look at the longer frame, it actually goes up, no? How about you, attorney? Bakit importante na people also understands the history of money, or do you think it doesn't ba before understanding Bitcoin?
It is important, and there are many reasons, but I'd like to focus on two. And I hope I won't repeat what Ramon has mentioned, although may relation sa mga sinasabi niya. First is use case, no? Ang use case ng and as intended, ang use case ng Bitcoin is to serve as an electronic cash, as an electronic money. That's in the title of the Bitcoin white paper. And that is why, no, to understand Bitcoin, it is important to understand, no, the history of money. Second reason is because if you study the history of money, it will tell you, no, lalo na the idea of electronic cash, no, is something that is difficult to comprehend or accept, no, if you don't know the history of money. Kasi ang orientation natin, ang idea, lalo na yung mga ka-generation natin, money is something that is created by the government. So how can this be money? This digital, no, asset, electronic cash, how can this be money when the government has not issued it? And yung government, ibaban yan. Hindi yan mag-work kasi the governments will stop it. No? But if you study the history of money, you'll understand that first and foremost, no, in that long history of money, no, the general rule is money is the creature of the market. It's the market that creates money. No? Money is market determined. And money exists regardless of how governments want to control it. This is exactly why money dies. Yung mga kinikreate ng mga fiat currencies, eventually they die. Kasi governments cannot control them. The circulation of money, it's possible pa rin na people, kahit papagbawalan ng gobyerno na gamitin tong pera na to, if the market finds it suitable for their economic activities, then they'll see, no, that they will still use that money, no. So since mga 1970s, actually even earlier, you can trace it, no, nung naging na decouple, no, yung mga yung fiat currencies, yung currencies na ginagamit natin sa gold. Parang ang idea na natin ay ang pera ay ginagawa ng gobyerno, no, at imposible na magkaroon ng market determined, market created na money. No, Bitcoin shows us, no, that is possible. And Bitcoin also shows it that in the modern age, no, today, no, in our digital economy, no, a market determined money can really exist, no, especially in that cyberspace. Actually, hindi lang in cyberspace, but even in real life, no, activities.
Ayun. Thank you so much, no, Attorney and Ramon, no. Ngayon ko lang napansin na medyo madami na rin pala yung nasa comment section, no. And I guess ito, so kaya din natin ginawa tong AMA na to, no. So may mga nagtatanong about siguro yung paano ginagawa yung Bitcoin, no, yung tinatawag na Bitcoin mining, and hindi ito something na naiintindihan ng karamihan. So can you guys briefly explain ano ba yung concept ng Bitcoin mining, and bakit importante ito sa security ng Bitcoin, or kung bakit successful yung Bitcoin right now? So we start with Ramon.
Mon.
Yeah. So, I could go as complicated on this topic. You could
We
go
can
very
go with
complicated and you can go very simple. But I guess, again, I'll simplify it na lang, no? And we can dig deeper if people have more questions. But essentially, what they call Bitcoin mining is yung favorite analogy ko is parang lottery tickets yan. It's like people who want to mine Bitcoin, and I have a reason kung bakit may quotes yan, is they run a computer and that computer makes guesses, right? guess lang. So each guess is like a lottery ticket. So kung mas mabilis yung computer mo, mas maraming guesses ka. And around every 10 minutes, may nananalong miner or may nananalong guess. And the yung miner na yon, they get to decide. They get to say, okay, I won, and then they tell everyone else. And ito yung next block sa blockchain. Ito yung transactions na gusto kong ilagay doon. And yung fees ng transactions na yon, and whatever the the block reward is, the block reward is something built into the algorithm of Bitcoin. That is what the miner gets to keep. So yun yung incentive ng miner. Right? There. That's the simple the simple answer. I mean, from there, maraming parang like, paano kung may mga bad actors? What about the environmental impacts of mining? Right? Maybe I'm sure people have heard that. I would say that it's really FUD in the news. But so the topic of mining goes pretty deep.
I see. So, may sinasabi na parang, di ba, as you mentioned, na kapag may itong mga Bitcoin miners, sila yung nagsasecure ng network, di ba? And may mga nababasa tayo na parang tinatawag na 51% attack. So, ano ba tong 51% attack? And mangyayari ba ito sa Bitcoin or something? I guess we can go naman with attorney.
Okay, so yung concept ng 51% attack, medyo technical siya. Kaya mamaya siguro I'll request Ramon to explain further, no. Pero ang 51% attack kasi as a way to secure the network, kailangan nating mag-contribute ng tinatawag na hash power. Tama ba 'yon, yung term na yun, hash power?
Yeah, that's what they call hash power. So
Oo. So
tama.
so kailangan mag-contribute at depende dito sa sa amount ng hash power, ito yung nakakapag-secure sa network. When you achieve 51%, which is more than the majority, you now have the ability to reverse transactions, no? So originally ang idea natin sa network sa Bitcoin network is dapat ay decentralized siya. Kasi dinidisintermediate natin ng central authority dito. Sino tong central authority na to? Central authority to issue money, like a central bank, or a central authority to validate transactions, like banks, no? Pinapakita sa Bitcoin, what we've accomplished in Bitcoin is pwede pala ma-disintermediate ang central bank. Kasi pwede palang magkaroon ng money na hindi ini-issue ng central bank or ng government. At pwede palang ma-validate ang mga payment transactions ng walang bangko, no? Or payment processor. Pero paano natin gagawin yon? Through computer science and cryptography, no? At isa na dito nga yung sistema ng Bitcoin mining, which is a way to conduct a decentralized verification, as explained earlier ni Ramon, no. So pwede bang mangyari sa Bitcoin? I would love to hear Ramon's feedback on this, but in my mind, it is theoretically possible. Theoretically possible. In theory, pwedeng mangyari. Nangyari na nga yan sa ibang network, no. Nangyari na sa yung mga Bitcoin clone, mga Bitcoin forks, no. Parang kung di ako nagkakamali, feel free to fact check this. Parang nangyari yata yun sa Bitcoin Diamond or Bitcoin Gold or something. Nangyari na rin yan sa mga Ethereum fork chains katulad ng Ethereum Classic. Nangyari na yan rin yan sa mga smaller blockchain networks katulad ng Verge, no. So yung mga examples na yon ay nagpapakita na a 51% attack is theoretically possible even in a larger network like Bitcoin. But in practice, however, considering kung gaano na karami mga Bitcoin miners ang nagko-contribute at nagsisecure ng network, no, I think we can be assured na in practical terms, no, in practical terms, mahirap na mangyari, if not impossible, improbable na mangyari sa Bitcoin network yung 51% attack.
Yeah, I agree. And I like Andreas Antonopoulos has a lot about this. You know, he'll be able to explain it better than weekend combined. Pero the one I like, well, first of all, I wanna like correct it slightly. So yung 51% is meaning, let's for example, um I have more than 50% of all miners. And let's just assume na lahat ng computer same speed na lang para simple yung ano, 'di ba? Yung scenario, same speed, and I have more than 50% in the world. Okay. Um I That's how I would achieve what they call the 51% attack. Pero I cannot necessarily, and I probably need much more than 51% to to start reversing transactions. And because the way the the network works is that talagang minsan, kasi 'di ba parang lottery siya, 'di ba? I explained earlier, so random siya. And minsan may dalawang miner that they guess at the same time and they submit blocks at the same time. That has happened. Um, and the way the network resolves it is, parang in Satoshi's words, sabi niya, the some miners might be guessing on this fork now, and another set might be guessing for this, right? And the way the network achieves consensus again is may susunod na guess on this fork. Kung mauna to, then essentially everyone will choose this fork automatically and madi-discard yung isa. Right? So a miner doesn't just need to achieve 51%, pero they need to achieve more and then sustain it. They need to sustain the guesses so that they can create a fork and then keep building on that. And, why it's impractical? I mean, I'll just say it's impossible. Theoretically, it's possible, but, in practice, it's impossible because what you need to make, if you don't make, you need to seize it somehow, more than like 50% of the machines, and then you need to find a power source to power them all, right? And yun yung running cost. And I think that's what gives proof of work a like a that's what makes it parang magical to me, is because there's a running cost to keeping that operation up. You don't just buy the machines and then sitting pretty ka na, right? If you want to attack, you have to spend that energy to do so, and mahal yon, right? And if you're an attacker and you manage to get the machines, you manage to get that electricity, you're gonna be spending, like, you'll need to spend that much to what, to mine empty blocks or something like that, right? And you won't even get the fees. So parang
Yeah, economic
yeah,
incentives, no?
it's not something I'm worried, but
Oo.
but there's also a reason why when there's a large transaction, you wait more than one confirmation,
Information.
right?
Oo.
Kasi the deeper you are in the chain, parang the less likely you are na i-disregard yung block na yun.
Mm.
I like Andreas Antonopoulos' yung heuristic niya. Sabi niya, kung kape, let's say you're accepting payment for a good or a service, right? So if it's like as expensive as coffee, zero conf na lang. Sige, okay lang, right? If it's a TV, maybe one confirmation is fine. Kasi ipapack mo pa yung TV kung na disregard yung block na yon, or let's say the network chose another fork, let's say nagka-fork at that moment, then by the time the TV gets out of your warehouse, then you would have figured it out. And then I forget the stages, pero kunyari kung nagbebenta ka ng aircraft carrier, yun yung example niya, 6 confirmations is enough.
Tama. Yeah.
Ayun.
Can I add something to that? No? Ang solution kasi sa 51%, no, it seems as designed by Satoshi Nakamoto, isn't really technical. There's really no technical way or measure to avoid a 51% attack. As we've said earlier, it is theoretically possible. As shown already in Bitcoin Gold, which is basically a copy of Bitcoin. Pero ang solution doon, ang stopgap is actually economic incentives, no? As mentioned by Ramon, no? It's not enough for you to sustain 51%. It's not enough for you to achieve 51%. You need to sustain it, no, for a reasonable duration to be able to take advantage, no, of those transaction reversals, and hopefully you earn, no, and yung ginastos mo in terms of energy, equipment, everything, all that effort is makompensate ka. With all that effort, actually, you can use that to mine Bitcoin na lang and earn something from that So why attack the network? And Bitcoin, the Bitcoin network as designed by Satoshi is actually designed as such so that if you want to attack the network, you will think twice. Would you attack the network or would you rather just support it and earn from it?
Yeah, I agree. No, yung economic incentives will actually hurt the 51% attacker. So thank you so much for that clarification, Ramon and Rafael. So I guess this is our last, hopefully our last ano naman on mining, no? And one of the comments that I've seen here, not really a question, but Casey Martin was mentioning na in the past bull market, people are using computers and generated a lot of money. So two-part question, pwede ba itong gawin ngayon sa bahay? And then may mga nababasa tayong mga cloud mining, ganyan. So alam ko may legal thing din doon, attorney, no? Pero yun yung dalawang question. So pwede pa itong gawin? Pwede pa bang mag-mina ng Bitcoin right now in the backyard or something? And yung mga cloud mining, any thoughts on that one? So yeah.
Siguro sa technical si Ramon, sa legal ako.
Yeah, I could go for the first. So if you're using your GPU or your CPU to mine, meaning laptop lang or desktop, no. Like, unless you're the luckiest person in the world. And that's what I tell people. If you believe you're lucky, try Bitcoin mining, right? Baka you can do it with pen and paper tas mananalo ka. But basically, no. However, and ito yung interesting part, is some people have made it like home projects. Like they need the heat. Let's say they live in a cold country. They need the heat anyway. Kasi meron mas galang heater or gusto nang i-heat yung pool nila. They've made home projects na they use a Bitcoin miner to generate the heat instead. Right? For example, may gumawa ng mga greenhouse and they use Bitcoin miners to heat it. Right? So, hindi lang yung reward. I mean, parang yung reward na nakukuha nila like helps, but there's also another reason why they're running. Parang there's another reward, and it's the heat. Right? And I like this, although I would say at this point it's more gagawin mo lang yun if you're fascinated with it. Like, it might not be practical. I'm not sure about yung economics niya. Pero I would encourage more people to do that. Siguro sa Pinas hindi natin kailangan kasi ang init na, 'di ba? Pero I would love to see more of that because nadidistribute palalo yung mining. Right? Imagine if everyone in the cold countries, instead of just using a radiator to heat their homes, they just turn on the miner pag malamig.
All right, thank you, Ramon. So, ito naman yung sa cloud mining, attorney, pwede ba natin gawin 'yon? Na ganun na lang. So, wala kaming parang laptop or computer na maganda. Pero may mga nag-o-offer ng Bitcoin cloud mining. So, anong thoughts mo doon? Walang sound, attorney.
Unahin natin yung mining. Kung ikaw ay nagmamine ng Bitcoin, no, may legal issue ba doon? Sagot natin, wala. Generally speaking, wala. Okay, depende sa certain circumstances baka, 'di ba? Pero generally speaking, walang issue doon. How about kung mag-join ka ng mga mining pools, which is still possible, no? Direct na may mga mining pool operators, no. Meron tayong mga malalaking mining pool operators. If you just join the mining pool, then you're contributing directly, no, computing power, hash power to the network or to that mining pool.
Ano
May
yung mining
legally,
pool, by the way?
ha?
What's a mining pool?
Mining pool,
Para
yun yung
lang,
mga
yeah.
organization. Yan ba? Kasi
Oo.
si Ramon mapaliwanag sa atin ang mining pool. Pero basically, it's just a loose affiliation of different mining operators. No, they organize among themselves, basically parang it's like hindi naman cartel, but that is another way to perhaps like a guild, no, of some sort, no.
Oo.
So that mas ma-expand nila yung mining power nila. And because of that, no, in terms of probabilities, mas mapadali nila na makapag-mine sila ng Bitcoin. At since itong mining pool na to is mas madali siya nakakakuha ng Bitcoin dahil malakas yung hash power na nako-contribute niya sa network, at in terms of probabilities, again nga, mas madali siya makakuha ng Bitcoin, mas nadi-distribute niya proratedly sa mga members ng mining pool yung Bitcoin, no. So wala ding issue 'yon. Kasi ang walang legal issue doon kasi yung mga nagjo-join ng mining pool, and actually may mga equipment sila, nagko-contribute sila ng computing power. No, they are active participants doon sa pag-mine ng Bitcoin. Ang problem, ang issue, yung mga tinatawag na cloud mining contracts, lalo na yung mga mining activities na pinopromote as an investment product, no? Particularly an investment contract, no? So kapag may nakakita ka na sinasabi, binebenta sa iyo, oy, mag-invest ka ng pera, hindi computing power ang binibigay mo, pera. Bigay ka ng pera sa amin. Tapos gagawin namin sa pera, bibili namin ng mga equipment yan. Bibili kami ng application specific, no, integrated circuit, ASIC, no, bibili kami ng coolers, bibili kami ng property, no? Sa China to, mga ganyan. Tapos tapos
He froze.
Wala ata siya.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But generally,
but
yung no?
I might be, hindi ako lawyer, and also I'm not, even if I were, I'm not your lawyer, pero I think what Raf is going to say is that, once you give money, parang investment na yon, and so that's a security essentially, and actually narinig ko, and this is why I stayed away from cloud mining, is it's an easy way to scam. Right? It's an easy way to scam. They just, you pay with a credit card or whatever, tapos they just don't pay you, or they might pay you just to keep you there, but one day when they have enough subscribers, they stop. Right? Now, may mga businesses naman na parang they say, alam mo yung like sa hosting ng website, web server, may mga business doon where what they call colo or colocation. It's like you buy your machine, but you send it to them, and then they'll turn it on and then run the data center. Pero like they'll put your computer on a rack there, tas sila yung magmamanage. You just pay them a smaller fee kasi hardware mo yun eh. There's some, I don't know if they're technically called cloud mining, but they do that, like a co-located or colo mining. And again, it's like, I guess in some ways it sounds like you're more invested, but it's difficult to tell because one, they need to, I wouldn't even know where to begin to know if they're doing their job properly. Just put it that way. Okay. I don't know. I just basically said na my guess is you're gonna say is parang security na yan, and it's an easy way to scam people.
Okay. So apologies, I got disconnected. But I was discussing yung yung cloud mining contract, yung basically arrangement na sinasabi nila ng promoter, invest ka ng pera sa amin, pambibili namin ng machines para makapag-mine kami ng cryptocurrencies, tapos bibigyan ka namin ng profit share. According to SEC, si SEC noong 2018 nag-issue ng public advisory against cloud mining contracts, yung mga ganitong klaseng arrangements, no? sabi ni SEC, this is considered an investment contract and therefore a security. And as such, dapat nire-register yung investment contract na yan, yung mga cloud mining contracts na yan, kay SEC. So madaling-madali lang malaman kung legitimate ba yung mga ganyang cloud mining contracts. Tanungin nyo kung registered yung cloud mining contract, yung transaction sa SEC. Dahil kung hindi, illegal na i-offer yan sa inyo, no? And pag tinanong natin kung registered sila yung cloud mining contract nila sa SEC, hindi enough na pakita lang nila na rehistrado yung company nila, ha. Dapat yung meron yung permit to sell, no? Yung nire-register mismo yung security. No? Kung maaalala nyo, nung 2017 and 2018, while in the rest of the world, ICO, if you remember yung ICO mania, no? Actually, here in the Philippines, in my observation, it's actually a cloud mining mania. Ang daming nag-o-offer ng mga cloud mining contracts. No? Hindi na natin babanggitin yung mga pangalan kasi syempre parang pinomote pa natin sila. Pero wala naman silang registration kay SEC tapos binibenta pa nila via multi-level marketing. So obviously, scam yung mga yon kasi hindi registered. So iwasan natin na mag-join ng mga ganong cloud mining contracts kasi those are not legitimate, they're not registered with the SEC and therefore they cannot be wala kayong protection, no, from those promoters.
Ayun. Thank you so much, no. Meron akong follow up at the moment, parang final word on Bitcoin mining. But first siguro i-ano muna natin yung raffle, no. As mentioned kanina, may mga mananalo ng 100,000 Satoshi. Kayo nang bahala mag-convert 100,000 Satoshi at for this segment dito sa section na to, may dalawang mananalo, no. So we are going to lang siguro baba muna natin si Ramon at si attorney. So yeah, ready ba ang lahat? So ang first question, again, 2 questions for this segment. 100,000 Satoshi for each of the winners, and the winners will be announced after the webcast, so immediately after the webcast. And you must have a sharer badge and you must be following the BitPinas Facebook page for you to do it. Okay, so we start with the first question. Napakadali lang ng first question natin. Wait lang, nawala. So ang first question natin ay ayun, who invented Bitcoin? So the time now is 8:45. Who invented Bitcoin? So napakadali, I believe na mention to kanina, and even before you go to this particular webcast, siguro nasabi nyo na, alam niyo na yung kung sino man yung gumawa ng Bitcoin, which is an anonymous person. We don't know who this person is, whether it's a she or he or a group of people who invented Bitcoin. All right. So going once, going twice. The time now is 8:46. Okay, so thank you so much sa mga nag-participate. And now, the second question. Remember, you must have a sharer badge. You must be following the BitPinas Facebook page. Okay, so the second question, what is the popular layer 2 payment protocol layered on top of Bitcoin, intended to enable fast transactions and be seen as a solution to Bitcoin scalability? So what is the popular layer 2 payment protocol on top of Bitcoin? So I believe this is something that we are going to discuss very much so after this segment. What is the popular layer 2 payment protocol on top of Bitcoin? So going once, going twice. Yeah, so maraming salamat sa lahat ng nag-participate dito sa ating Q&A at the moment. Remember, mananalo kayo ng 100,000 sats. Winners will be announced after the webcast. Gusto nga sana namin agad, pero syempre medyo komplikado siguro at some point, no? So yeah, we are going to bring back Ramon and Attorney Raf dito sa ating sa ating stream. So medyo madami-dami na yung mga questions natin, no? And I guess this really has been a very educational thing for our educational video for everyone no, na nandito. So, final thought on Bitcoin mining, one of the comments mentioned na meron daw dangers in our environment. So, what is your final word on this? Yung Bitcoin ba, Bitcoin mining, does it hurt or does it harm the environment? Is it really that, kasi ako personally, minsan naisip ko parang medyo exaggerated yung parang itong Bitcoin, parang sobrang, ito talaga yung nakakasira ng mundo, no? So, what is the final word on this? Does Bitcoin actually, or I guess crypto in general, does it harm the environment? So, we go with Ramon first.
Yeah, I think the concern for people, and even one of the early adopters, si Hal Finney, sabi niya, right? Like if people are going to be, mining Bitcoin and Bitcoin like goes to the moon, then there's going to be some carbon footprint. Those aren't his words. Parang I'm just rephrasing it, right? And and to be honest, I thought that way too, right? Like, and then yung napansin ko, mga 2019, maybe 2020, around the pandemic, um, there was this, there was these people who were using Bitcoin mining as a way to to sustainably build mga renewable energy projects, and they were using it for demand response, which is something our electricity grids need to do. And that way, parang maging mas sustainable to essentially provide more electricity to more people, right? There's some companies now, and we'll see kung successful sila, who are getting methane from mga landfills or from oil mining sites. I'm not very familiar with the terms. May methane yan. And then they take the methane, they use it as fuel to run a generator and then run miners on it. Kasi yung methane parang 30 times yung warming effect niya as compared to carbon dioxide. So, biglang, I was like, oh, parang curveball to right? It's like, I wasn't expecting it. And lately, you may have seen na pati si KPMG, they've said that, these are real possibilities for Bitcoin mining, and it could be actually more beneficial to have Bitcoin miners around, right? Essentially, that's what it looks like is happening to the narrative about Bitcoin, about proof of work and the environment.
I see. Nawala ba si Hindi, ayun. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, thank you so much, Ramon, on that. So, attorney, the final word, does Bitcoin harm the environment?
Okay. I have a long answer and I have a short answer to that question. Yung long answer, meron akong kinontribute na article sa BitPinas, no? Decentralized and decarbonized, no? Basically, dinidiscuss yung environmental use cases ng Bitcoin, no? At doon ko rin diniscuss yung concept ng ESG, environmental and social governance, and how that is actually compatible with Bitcoin considering the various environmental use cases. At ano-ano ba to? Mga binanggit na rin ni Ramon, no? So di na natin ulitin, pero let's just quickly enumerate them. Flare gas capture, no? Load balancing mechanism sa mga power plants, no? Lalo na pag bumababa yung supply ng pag bumababa yung demand ng electricity, pwedeng pumunta yung mga Bitcoin mining operators doon, lalo na kasi portable ang mga Bitcoin miners, no? Pwede nilang dalhin doon sa power plant na mababa ang supply para mag-stabilize, no, yung supply. Sorry, mababa pala ang demand, no, para mag-stabilize yung supply. Tapos pwede rin na pumunta mga Bitcoin miners doon sa mga power plants naman na sumusobra yung supply. Ang tawag natin diyan ay curtailed energy, no. Ang electricity kasi ay hindi yan parang pansit na kapag may sumobra, pwede mong ilagay sa ref, no, tapos bukas isa-serve mo ulit, no. Ang energy, ang electricity energy, kapag na-deploy na siya at hindi nagamit, sayang na, wasted na. Yan ang tinatawag nating curtailed energy. Dahil ang mga Bitcoin mining operators ay portable, pwede silang pumunta doon sa power plant na tumataas ang supply para ma-balance nga. At sa halip na masayang yung curtailed energy, mamamonetize nila yon. Kasi yung curtailed energy hindi nagamit, so lugi na sila doon. Pero kung yung energy na yon,
Yeah. Kung so I'll continue for him. When he comes back, he can continue. So, kasi otherwise, the power plants are just making more electricity than the demand, and they don't get paid for it. Pero kung nandun yung miners, they're what they call they're willing to buy the electricity as long as it's cheap enough for them, right? If it's too expensive, then they won't. And in fact, parang sa, like, I think it's called gridless compute. Sa Africa, there's this company who would essentially install miners in like these power producers there, because the power producers needed more demand, and at least these miners are willing to pay them, right? And typically these are in more rural areas. I think I believe Gridless, still one of the videos was like, or maybe not, but baka hindi si Gridless, but I remember the video well. Like, itong village na to where they did not have electricity, they were able to install like meron silang maliit na river or like a stream. They installed a generator, and they install a miner, and whatever the village doesn't need, they use it to mine. Sorry, Raf, I just explained yung kung sayang yung power. At least now there's an option to have a Bitcoin miner nearby who's willing to pay you for that extra power, which
yeah,
otherwise would have been wasted.
masasayang, no? So apologies again, no? A last point na lang doon sa issue na to. Nabanggit kanina ni Ramon yung KPMG, no? Marami ng reports aside from KPMG na kino-compare ang consumption ng electricity ng Bitcoin relative to other industries, no? Such as tourism, fashion industry, at ang layo-layo ng power energy consumption ng Bitcoin kumpara sa mga industries na to. At katulad din ng mga appliances like air condition, tumble dryers, washing machine, ang layo-layo ng power consumption ng mga appliances na to kung ikukumpara mo sa Bitcoin. That really proves to you na it's a misconception yung sinasabi nila na Bitcoin will boil the ocean because of its high energy consumption. Kung naalala natin yung fear, uncertainty, and doubt FUD before sa Bitcoin, di ba? Sinasabi, criminals use Bitcoin or Bitcoin can only be used for illegal activities. Pero I think tapos na tayo doon sa FUD na yon. Pero ngayon nandito tayo sa FUD na Bitcoin is bad for the environment. Pero gradually, nagbabago na rin, nag-shift na rin yung narrative. Ang pinaka-importanting milestone para sa akin dito is nung last month, no, in-announce ng BlackRock na sila ay mag-a-apply na rin ng Bitcoin Exchange Traded Fund sa United States. Bakit importante to? Ang Chief Executive Officer kasi ng BlackRock, no, si Larry Fink, ay ang pinaka-prominent na champion or advocate ng ESG, environmental and social governance. So maraming mga companies at mga funds, smaller funds, ayaw mag-invest sa Bitcoin kasi ayaw nilang ma-offend si Larry Fink, ayaw nilang ma-offend si BlackRock. And ibig may influence ang BlackRock, no? So ang perception before is masama sa environment ng Bitcoin, pero with BlackRock now intending to offer a Bitcoin spot Bitcoin ETF, for me that's a validation na kahit si BlackRock ay nire-examine na yung previous notions na Bitcoin is bad for the environment.
Ayun. Thank you so much, Rafael and Ramon. And yung isang comment lang, parang about din sa Bitcoin mining is parang, so in short daw, don't be a Bitcoin miner. Actually, ang sabi ni Ramon is, if you can, you try it. Just because the more distributed the network, the better for Bitcoin. No? So, yung mga narrative, you mentioned yung mga narratives, no, attorney, and I guess one of the prevailing narratives around Bitcoin is that it cannot be used daw for transactions, no? Na parang ito ay mas better as store of value na kasi well, it goes up, diba? It goes down, but generally goes up. But yung yung using it for payments, that it na parang nandun sa white paper, I mean, nasa white paper, parang nawala na daw yon as a use cases. But of course, one of the things that are happening right now is the so-called Lightning Network, no? Na parang on top of Bitcoin and can help in parang we use Bitcoin for these particular payments transactions. Now, Ramon, uh, will you explain to us ano ba tong Lightning Network, and I heard your analogy dun sa one of the podcasts that I know with Harry, no, pero if you can also mention that, so para madali siyang maintindihan ano kayang analogy ito para maintindihan namin kung ano ba tong Lightning Network ito at bakit to importante sa Bitcoin.
Was this the Skype or the VoIP analogy?
I think so, parang yun nga.
Or yung
Hindi matandaan.
abacus?
The abacus
So,
yun, the
sige.
abacus. Kaya,
Okay, yung abacus. Sige. So now that I know what you're looking for, so the Lightning Network essentially, okay, ako software guy ako, so I tend to rattle on about the technology more than I should, but I'll try to make this simple. Parang ano lang siya, it's a way for you to pass Bitcoin to each other without making a transaction on chain so much, right? Like you'll need to do it, pero not as often. Now, so super simplified yon. Another way you can think about it is parang alam mo yung abacus, yung maybe you were taught this in nursery or in grade school, yung you have like beads on a string. So imagine na lang to join the Lightning Network, I can make a magic abacus. I'll connect to Mike, right? And then he has beads on a string. We have a string connected to both of us. Tapos may beads yun. Yung beads na yun yung satoshis, right? And when we create that connection, we essentially go into a two of two. We create a transaction on the blockchain. Parang may essentially smart contract siya on the blockchain, right? And then once we have that string, we can parang pitik mo yung sats to his end, he can do the same to me, and we can do that without touching the Bitcoin blockchain. And we can do it as many times as we want. And then, pero that's just a Lightning channel, right? Ano tong Lightning Network? Do I have to make a connection to everybody? Kung ganun, parang useless lang. In fact, mas mahal pa yata yon. So, but it's called the Lightning Network because, Mike, if you make a connection to Raf, I can essentially say, I want to make a payment to Raf, and then I send it to you, and then you send Bitcoin to Raf. So I go through you. And then you can, there are more hops here, but of course, the farther you go, the more hops you make, parang the less reliable it becomes, right? But that's essentially the Lightning Network for you.
ayun.
Ako din may analogy din ako, pwede rin ba mag-share ng analogy? Sige. Metaphor, no? Para madaling maintindihan. Sa akin naman, yung bar tab na metaphor, ayun, kagagaling lang namin ni Ramon sa poblasyon, no, 2 weeks ago, no, to attend the meetup. Alam niyo, pag nasa bar kayo, no, o-order ka ng beer, kasama mo mga barkada mo, di ba? Pwede mong ikumpara ang Bitcoin network or ang Bitcoin blockchain sa cash register, no? Doon sa bar nag-iisa lang siya, no? Imagine kung lahat kayo sabay-sabay umu-order ng beer, no? Ang tagal bago nyo makuha yung sukli nyo o bago kayo makapagbayad. So ginagawa ng mga sa bar is yung mga barista binibigyan kayo ng tabs, no? At doon nila nililista o di kaya iniipit nila yung credit card nyo bago nila i-process yung transaction. So makukumpara mo yung cash register doon sa Bitcoin network as layer 1 at makukumpara mo yung mga tabs doon sa mga channels na pwedeng ma-create through the Lightning Network. And because of the ability to create tabs, no, bumibilis ngayon yung mga transactions na makabili ka ng beer sa bar. At it's more fun kasi nakakainom ka kasama ang barkada at hindi na kayo nasasayang yung oras nyo na mag-antay doon sa sukli nyo, mag-antay sa bayad nyo o makapagbayad o makapag-order ng beer. So yun ang aking example for or metaphor for Lightning Network.
Ayun, thank you so much, no. And ito yung follow-up ngayon na question from Vincent. Yung Lightning Network ba can help Bitcoin, become a global payment network? We can start again with Ramon.
Absolutely. It already is the way I see it, right? Like I'm already starting to see services where they don't accept fiat and you can only pay with crypto, and Lightning would be one of them. I see some where it's only Lightning. And I think that Bitcoin and Lightning, para siyang my other analogy for this is para siyang VoIP, right? Like you remember back in the day before Skype, when you wanted to call abroad, meron kang, mga pamilya abroad, you'd make long distance calls, tas yung bayad mo is per minute, tas ang mahal, right? Pero when the internet came aboard, as long as both of you had Skype, then you could talk to each other, right? May mga businesses then that would pop up and they would bridge, let's say, between Skype and your telephone, so that maybe you have Skype and you can call a landline. Actually, Skype itself, meron silang Skype in and Skype out to do that. That's how I see Lightning. Parang it's not something that you have to do only Lightning and you can't do anything else. Para siyang bridging technology, right? And if like Gcash, maybe they're connected to Alipay or Alibaba, Alipay, right? They're connected to Alipay. They're connected to the Philippine banking system, but they could also theoretically connect to Lightning. And suddenly, yung users nila could talk to any other Lightning service in the world, right? They can send people money to Cash App, and they don't even have to think about Bitcoin. Iko-convert lang yon to Lightning. Babawasan yung pesos, convert to Lightning, send to Cash App, then maybe it'll be converted to dollars or whatever. Bahala na yung recipient, right? So parang VoIP siya. It becomes like this bridging technology.
I see. Maganda nga na parang for us to actually understand it better, layman, di ba, yung mga analogies na yan will certainly help us, no? Yung abacus and yung sa bar is actually very, yung bar tab very,
Nakalimutan ko lang pala sabihin, yung tab mo, syempre at the end of the night, babayaran mo, no? Sa cash register. So yun naman yung equivalent na kino-close mo yung channel, no, sa Lightning Network, no? And if I can also quickly answer the question, no? The answer, my answer to this is very simply yes, no? Yes. In the short history of blockchain networks, no, Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think we have seen already that the solution to scalability is not to scale up the network, but rather to scale out. Ibig sabihin, no, introduce natin yung hindi natin papalakihin yung layer 1. Okay na, enough na yung layer 1, and what we should introduce instead is yung mga layer 2s. And this design is proves to be a good concept both in Ethereum and Bitcoin, in the case of Bitcoin with Lightning Network as layer 2.
Ayun. Thank you so much, Attorney and Ramon, no? So, kala ko kulang pala yung sinet natin ng oras because of all the questions that we have, and to our readers then I prepared din mga questions para just in case wala magtanong ganyan, pero very informative itong discussion natin ngayon. Maybe we can actually have this at some point, no, in the future, maybe monthly, may Bitcoin Q&A tayo with Ramon, with Rafael, with different Bitcoin educators here in the country, no. So right now we are going to we're going to take this discussion para mag-break muna so we can have the Q&A, the trivia Q&A, no? So we bring down muna si Attorney at saka si Ramon on this. So maraming salamat sa lahat ng nanonood right now sa BitPinas webcast. My name is Michael Mislos. Ito na po yung second raffle natin ng trivia, no? Again, you need to be following the BitPinas page, and you also need to have a sharer badge. Okay? So these prizes are courtesy of Beachers Labs sa Baguio, www.beacherslabs.com. Maraming salamat. They help businesses establish their digital presence in the internet, no? And good friends of ours sa crypto industry. Matagal na silang, well, long time readers din ng BitPinas. So maraming salamat sa inyo. So all right. So again, ito yung sa trivia natin, and remember na you have to be following the BitPinas page. You have to also have a sharer badge, and you also need to download the Lightning wallet called the Wallet of Satoshi na ngayon ay nilagay natin sa comment section, no? The wallet to be used where we are going to send the Bitcoin immediately after once we have the winners is to the Wallet of Satoshi na app, no? So it is a Lightning network app. Napakabilis, sinasabi nga lagi ni Ramon, ni attorney, masyado mabilis yung pagta-transfer sa pang magical siya. Yun yung word na sinasabi. So yun. So, are you ready? Ito na yung pangatlo nating question. So, 1, 2, the time now is 9:09. The question is, the first recorded purchase using Bitcoin was for 2 pizzas. No? What is the name of the programmer who paid 10,000 BTC for 2 pizzas in 2010? What is the name of the programmer who paid 10,000 BTC for 2 large pizzas in 2010? So right now is yung halagang yon, 10,000 Bitcoin is around 16.5 billion pesos. Kinumpit ko kanina. So but of course, kung hindi yun nangyari, we won't have this particular na ano, kasi yun yung parang first time na mayroong transaction na ginamit yung Bitcoin. So it proved na Bitcoin has value. It proved na Bitcoin can be used for payments. So what is the name of the programmer who paid 10,000 BTC for 2 large pizzas? So going once, going twice. The time now is 9:10 p.m. So ayun. So ayan. So maraming salamat. Ngayon, ang kasunod nating question ay, which country was the first to officially recognize Bitcoin as legal tender? Which country was the first to officially recognize Bitcoin as legal tender? So I believe this happened in 2020 ata, no, or 2021, no? Isang country sa South America who which now recognizes Bitcoin as legal tender. So it caused a lot of celebration sa Bitcoin community, sa crypto community, but it also, it also has a lot of problems, which maybe we can discuss later with our guests, no? Which country was the first to officially recognize Bitcoin as legal tender? Okay, going once, going twice. That time now is 9:11 p.m. So once again, thank you to Beachers Labs, and thank you sa mga sumagot. So winners na we will announce later. Remember na you need to download the Wallet of Satoshi app to receive the Bitcoin. Okay, so now we are going to bring back on stage Ramon and Attorney Rap. Welcome back. And again, this has been a very informative session. So these are quick questions that we have from the audience. No? Remember, sa audience natin, we still have 2 winners sa mga nagpa-participate sa comment section. So ganun din, 100,000 Satoshi. Again, kayo na mag-convert. Okay, so ito yung question on ni Henry. This is Henry from Beachers. Quantum computing. So threat ba ito sa Bitcoin? So anyone can answer. I guess Ramon first.
So, I've looked into this. I'll just say, I guess a short answer is I'm not worried about it. but just like quantum computing or quantum, theory, I always have to research again as to why I decided to, why I thought I wasn't worried about it. But based on my memory, essentially, like it it takes time. First of all, uh, to get machines with with a number of what they call qubits. Yun yung parang yung power ng machine, right? Of these quantum computing machines. To get enough qubits for it to start being posing a threat. And second, there already is some discussion about moving to more quantum resistant cryptography, right? And the third one I hear often really is I think quantum computing will be more a threat to to our the banking system than to Bitcoin, to be honest, because
Mm.
that I think that'll take longer to upgrade.
Mm.
I
Oh.
see. Yun din yung parang, sige, go ahead, attorney.
Yun din sana gusto ko sabihin eh. In my view, quantum computing will be a security threat to Bitcoin, but in the same manner that it will be a threat to all existing encryption technologies, and therefore lahat will be affected. Hindi lang si Bitcoin, pero lahat. But nevertheless, no, there are already some designs that are being introduced, no, to make encryption quantum resistant. And because of the decentralized nature of Bitcoin, no, if the community finds it necessary and urgent, we can implement those proposals, no, to incorporate this quantum resistant technologies to protect Bitcoin network.
Ayun. Ang inaisip ko nga dito is parang before we worry about quantum computing destroying kumbaga Bitcoin, meron pang ibang mauuna. I mean, yun yung ano ko doon, no? So before we worry about its effect on Bitcoin, parang ito nga yung banking system, because those things as Ramon mentioned is baka right now parang medyo outdated. So makikita mo yung mga ATM machines natin nga, di ba? Parang hindi pa siya Windows 11. So medyo off tangent, no? Sorry about that. But yeah, this is the next ng question naman from, okay, nakita ko kanina, he was mentioning about eto. So a question, well, not really, it is a question to BitPinas, kung mag-hold daw ba kami ng Bitcoin sa reserves. So I guess iaano ko na lang yung question. So naririnig kasi natin yan, no, parang El Salvador is holding Bitcoin to their reserves. And we also have companies who was actually actively buying Bitcoin or putting it in their reserve. So ito ba ay pwedeng gawin, no? So pero parang meron bang, what stops companies or countries from doing this siguro? So siguro accounting issues ba to, or ano tingin mo dito, attorney?
Okay. So various, we're talking, are we talking about companies holding Bitcoin as part of their treasury, or are we
Yes,
talking
and
about nation
countries
states?
din. I think
Okay,
parehas.
kakaibang layers yan eh.
Okay.
So in the Philippines, broadly speaking, no, under the corporation law, I see it's possible. No, for legally is possible, wala naman ako nakikitang legal restriction preventing companies from holding Bitcoin as part of their treasury reserve, no, corporate treasury. Pero it's going to be an economic question now, business question, and accounting question nga, as you've said, no. When it comes to nation states adopting Bitcoin, no, according to their respective laws, there may be restrictions. But if we'll compare it here in the Philippines, no, I've reviewed this, I've studied this before back in 2020. I've also contributed an article in BitPinas, no, demonstrating how the BSP, no, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, could actually legally, no, hold Bitcoin as part of its reserve asset, na walang legal restrictions for the BSP to do that. But of course, it's going to be a monetary policy question, if it's going to be an economic policy question, and perhaps we should add a political question on whether BSP should do that, no. Interesting development din, magandang pag-aralan yung bagong batas lang na ginawa, yung Maharlika the law that created the Maharlika Fund. No, kung pwede bang yung Maharlika Fund, no, mag-invest din in Bitcoin. And doon sa pagbasa ko ng batas, again, in theory, legally speaking, it is possible as long as i-approve kasi merong provision doon na nagsasabing other investments. In-enumerate kung ano-ano saan siya pwede mag-invest. Tapos merong catch-all na basically basta in-approve ng board, pwedeng mag-invest. Which means, in my mind, no, presents the opportunity na if the Maharlika Fund would want to, they can also invest in Bitcoin. But it's going to be a monetary policy question, economic policy question, even a political question. No? If the government or the state would want to do that. And yun ang mahirap na tanong. No? At hindi yata natin masasagot yan kasi it boils down to policy. Kung akong tatanungin mo, I would say it's a good idea. As I explained doon sa paper na sinulat ko, both from a political and economic perspective, it's a good idea. But of course, baka biased ako, magandang sila ang mag-determine nung policy if it's a good idea for the government to do that.
All right, thank you thank you attorney on that, no. So ito pa lang latest investment fund na naririnig natin can actually in theory parang pwede pala siyang
pwede
if ever
legally
decided. Thank you on that, no. And ngayon yung next question, we were not I don't remember if we touched on the Bitcoin halving, no. Siguro Ramon, very briefly lang, ano ba tong Bitcoin halving and how does it affect itong Bitcoin in the future? So isa nga sa trivia natin dapat is on how many Bitcoin are there, no? So ang maximum supply lang ng Bitcoin is 21 million. Siguro paano mo ba iano yun, Ramon, na parang bakit ba 21 million lang ito and anong significance nung ipakitay ito sa Bitcoin halving event?
Yeah. So kanina, 'di ba sabi ko yung we were talking about mining, may besides the transaction fees, may parang block reward or block subsidy. Those are the two most common terms. And yun yung parang yun yung nire-reward ng network to the miner. And so the way it works and kung bakit siya tinatawag halving is roughly every 4 years nahahati yung reward na yon. So sa simula, maybe 2008 to 2012 or so, 50 Bitcoin yung reward ng isang block. So kung nag-mine ka, you would get 50 Bitcoins in one block, right? Every 10 minutes. And then 2012, nag-halve yon, tapos naging 12.5. Tapos 2016, naging 6.25. And then 2020, naging 3.125, I think. Something like that, right? And why people ask about or look forward to the halving or the halvening, minsan some people call it, and ask about the price is, remember the dates? 2012. There was a bull run around 2013, I think. The next halving was 2016. There was a bull run 2017. There was a halving in 2020. Was there a bull run in 2020? 2021? Yes, right? So, like, there's a correlation. I wouldn't say it's a causation, but there is a correlation, and I suspect that it's going to happen again, right? And bakit? Like, that's the question that, we won't really know the true answer to. It's probably a combination of all of this. Pero kung bakit is, essentially, miners have less to sell, right? So, and as long as yung demand for it doesn't drop by half, then kasama yung sa halving, as long as demand for Bitcoin, people buying Bitcoin doesn't drop by half, then the price is going to go up. And of course, when the price goes up a little, then you have the traders come in, right? The traders come in, they want to ride the wave, and it goes all the way, and then they'll overheat your market, and then what happens? Nagka-crash, correction. I think that I suspect, this is just a suspicion, na mangyayari yon for at least a few more times.
All right. So 21 million, no? And from the sources, from the articles that we've seen, is that parang the last Bitcoin will be mined parang in the year 2100 pa ata, no? And
21
anong mangyayari
21
nun kapag halimbawa lahat na ng Bitcoin na mine? So how can the Bitcoin, I guess, it will be secured na by fees, no? Hindi na nung mga block rewards. Tama
transaction
ba ako doon?
network.
Transaction fees.
Oo.
Okay.
And yeah, can I comment on that? Oo.
Yes.
Yun nga yung merong mga sort of fear, uncertainty and doubt. Although 2140 pa naman yon, sinasabi na hindi to sustainable. Actually, hindi naman kailangang umabot ng 2140 eh. Kasi maybe like 20 years from now, konting-konti na lang yung yung mining Bitcoin rewards. Paano pa ma-incentivize sa mga miners? So maraming mga ganong hypothetical, theoretical
Yes.
question. Isang ang report dyan galing pa sa Bank for International Settlements. Sinasabi, may paper ang Bank for International Settlements, sinasabi na hindi sustainable ang economic design ng Bitcoin kasi eventually mawawala ng Bitcoin mining rewards. Okay. Pero ang maganda dito sa recent developments early this year, yung Bitcoin ordinals, na yung inscriptions, although controversial yan sa Bitcoin community, pero ang magandang pinakita ng use case na to is or ng example na to is it is sustainable actually for Bitcoin miners to earn from transaction fees as long as there is a demand, no, doon sa to be included in the block. Kasi napansin natin tumataas nga pati yung network fee sa Bitcoin dahil sa demand for inscriptions and ordinals, but that at least gives us an early vantage point of how it might look in the future pag nawala na yung mining rewards, no? Pero as long as there is a demand for your transaction to be included in the network, there will be business and there will be economic incentives for Bitcoin miners.
Ayun. Thank
So
you
it's
so
not
much.
a showstopper pa rin. Oo, hindi pa rin siya showstopper for Bitcoin yung mawala na ng ng mining ng mining rewards.
And sabi mo nga na parang baka nga hindi na tayo umabot do sa 2100 na parang dapat may mga use cases like itong ordinals that you were mentioning na parang in simplest terms parang siyang NFT on the Bitcoin network.
Oo.
Alright, so ito yung next question from Zylee na parang can you recommend, she was asking can you recommend trading books for beginner, pero maybe we can adjust this question and siguro can you recommend books about Bitcoin na our listeners here, our watchers can read. We can start with Ramon. Bitcoin books.
Yeah. I think the one that really opened up my eyes to a lot of topics here is, I would say, the Bitcoin standard, right? You don't have to agree with everything on the book, but you can still come out with it, like with a lot of new things to look into and research, right? And then I also love the way, Nick Batia. So if you search for a book called Layered Money, I like the way he thinks about how money is structured. Like parang may pyramids siya and may drawings siya. It's very good. So it gives you also it gives you a history of how the money we have today, how banks, the central banks we have today started, right? And how, like before, kasi puro banks lang yung meron silang their own money because it was a deposit for gold that people would just trade with each other, and then governments came in, and then essentially that's how you got central banks, right? Like those are, I would say, pretty much Bitcoin books. Price of Tomorrow by Jeff Booth, good. And then non-Bitcoin books but economics, like Economics in One Lesson. I forget who wrote it, sorry, but also there's a parang Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell. That's how you I think that's how you say it.
Alright, thank you Ramon, no? And ako ma'am, sasabihin ko lang na since mahilig ako sa history and all, paborito ko yung digital gold. So more about naman ng mga how people in the early Bitcoin community come together and ito na nga yung fruits nung parang mga labors na ginawa nila on that end na parang super wild west, ni mo alam kung ikukulong ka the next day kasi nga nagbi-Bitcoin or nag-ooperate ka ng Bitcoin company. So, and that was actually a recommendation by Attorney Raf to me, no? So, over to you, Attorney Raf. Ano yung mga recommended mo na Bitcoin books sa ating
So,
mga nanonood.
maganda nga yung digital gold kung interested ka sa history, no, ng Bitcoin. Yung Age of Cryptocurrency maganda din, no, kung interested ka sa history. Paul Vigna and Michael Casey, no. Binanggit na lahat ni Ramon yung gusto ko eh. Pero na lang +1 na lang doon sa kay Saifedean Amos, no, Bitcoin Standard, and Ramon is absolutely correct. Pag binasa mo yung book, and that this is the only book na na ang dami akong di nag-agree, but overall pa rin, overall, no, I even consider the book as a Bible, no. Siguro ang mali niya lang, well, yeah, siguro ikaw then maybe baka iba sa Bible, hindi ka nag-agree, no, pero yeah, it's very very important book. Para na lang, yan, tapos sa Nickel Batia, no, Layered Money, okay din, +1 din on that. Gusto additional recommendations na lang. Magaganda din yung book ni ang hirap lang pronounce yung name, but I think it's pronounced as Knut Van Holm, no? Marami siyang books on Bitcoin, pero isa sa maganda yung Everything Divided by 21 Million, no? Tapos Seventh Property, Eric Yakes, no? That's also a good book on Bitcoin.
Ayun.
Then
Thank you
kung
so
medyo
much.
religious ka, meron Thank God for Bitcoin. Medyo maraming authors nun. Maganda din yan.
And meron din parang yung The Little Bitcoin Book, no, na
Oo,
nabasa ko din.
kila Luis. Okay
And
din yun for beginners.
itong latest nga, itong Bitcoin book ni Dean Florin Hilbay na parang
How can we
available
forget?
right now sa website niya.
Oo. Maganda yun. Oo.
Ayun. Thank you so much dun sa mga recommendations. May question about about spot ETF. I think this was answered earlier. So parang the short version is parang this is something that is very bullish, no, on Bitcoin, especially on the price. And I think we are down to at least our last two questions, no. So we cannot hold them for so long kasi syempre we are at the weekend. Yung lang, safety on Bitcoin, no? Bitcoin fraud, how do you keep your Bitcoins safe, no? Ako, if I would go first, so I think isa kasi importante is your personal safety. Kasi hindi, especially, for example, people who are very public or very public in the community, people knows you. So, no matter how secure your Bitcoin wallets are, yung personal safety mo rin importante, no? So, yeah, so how to protect yourself against, your how to get your Bitcoin secure, which we start with Ramon.
Yeah, you're right, Mike. Like, parang you're right. Like, even if your keys are safe, right? You could still be parang what they call the $5 wrench attack. But if we're just talking about Bitcoin, I think that I love the phrase "not your keys, not your coins." So really, most people's I don't know the numbers. I don't look at the on-chain stuff, but a lot of people's Bitcoin are with custodians. So yung keys wala sa kanila, right? I highly encourage people to take custody of their own, and take it slow. Like, hindi kailangan sobrang komplikado yung setup mo, right? Get I don't know, a Trezor or a Jade. Jade's actually not bad. I use that. Cold Card is a bit more advanced, but get one of those and then store your Bitcoin there. But you know what? You could even go simpler. You can get a wallet like Nunchuck. Okay si Nunchuck. Um, and then you can build from there. Kasi syempre, kung kunyari, 20,000, 30,000 pesos worth lang yung Bitcoin mo, you don't want to spend 5 to 10,000 on a hardware wallet, di ba? So parang may levels yan. As you learn, mas komportable ka, you can upgrade. But always test your setup.
How about yung parang yung paper wallet? Okay pa ba yung mga ganong setup?
People have been fine with paper wallets. It's more human error yung worry ko, right? It's more human error because when you generate your paper wallet, dapat offline yung computer mo. Kasi kung online yan, there's a possibility kahit maliit na someone else knows what your seed is. And it's not as simple as that also, right? So like instead of thinking about all that, um, I I like leaning on hardware wallets when it makes sense because they think about this. And of course, if what you have is getting large already, or you want to put more in, so you want to prepare ahead, look at multisig. So you don't even have to completely trust one wallet maker. Kasi kung naka-multisig ka, parang kahit may pasaway na wallet maker, protected ka because naka-multisig ka.
Ayun. Thank you so much, Ramon. No? So, attorney, would you add to that naman sa how to keep your crypto safe?
Actually parang sinabi na ni Ramon lahat ng importanteng practical advice, no? And maganda yung sinabi niya kasi of course it comes from on the technical side, no? So para hindi ko na lang ulitin, gusto ko na lang paalala na just some comments. Nakita ko sa comment section sabi be your own bank, no? If you're gonna be your own bank, be ready also for your own bank robbery. So you have to protect ibig ko sabihin kailangan mong protektahan yung sarili mo, no? One measure, one approach also in addition doon sa sinasabi ni Ramon is siguro din yung lifestyle din natin. Lalo na kapag ibig ko sabihin, syempre marami sa atin siguro sa mga natin sa community, baka dahil medyo nag-appreciate na yung Bitcoin nila, 'di ba? Medyo baka masyado ng yung lifestyle nila luxurious, no? Tapos baka pino-post nila sa social media. Medyo lang sana let's moderate lang 'yon para kasi yung mga ganong mga postings lalo na sa social media could potentially attract din mga hackers, no? Kaya hindi lang hackers, hindi na natin sasabihin kung sino, pero 'di ba may mga kaibigan pa nga tayo sa community na recently na hold up, pinasok sa bahay, no, sinaktan. At alam natin na mga prominent na mga Bitcoin traders 'yon. So siguro medyo lang tayo, low profile as much as possible. That's one way also, no, of protecting ourselves from bank robberies, no. If you will be your own bank.
Ayun. Thank you so much, attorney. So be ready, no, if you want to be your own bank, be prepared na kakaroon ka rin ng sarili mong bank robbery. So, thank you so much. Napakagandang insight. So, etong question. Bitcoin reveal daw, no? Pero sige, natawa lang ako. Pero, yeah, this has been a very interesting discussion. And yun nga, hopefully, maulit natin ito. And unfortunately for everyone, ito na pa, we are now on the last part of our show. And thank you sa lahat ng mga nag-comments. Remember, there will be 2 winners who participated in the comment section. 100,000 Satoshis, courtesy of Beachers. Thank you again for contributing to our prize pool. So, I guess we are now on the closing. So, to Ramon and Rafael, so i-flash ko lang yung question, but basically, what I wanted to ask is parang, well, this is actually one of the questions sa previous meetup natin. Pero, what makes you very bullish on Bitcoin? So, what makes you very bullish on Bitcoin? Our final question for the night. We begin with Ramon.
What makes me very bullish is I think more and more people will just see it as a savings mechanism, right? Like maybe for their long term. It also doesn't have to be all their savings, but and as long as people continue to do that, then they'll see their purchasing power grow. Like yung mabibili nila will grow.
Ayun. Thank you so much, Ramon. And how about you, attorney? What makes you very bullish on Bitcoin?
Okay. So I once again have a long answer and a short answer. The long answer is in the article I contributed to BitPinas, yung counterweight. No, counterweight. This is a 2020 article. No? Short answer is yun, makikita na we yung society natin is becoming more and more digital, and it's not just the society, no, the economy is also becoming more and more digital, no? Yung problem sa fiat currency, and that's why a market determined money will become superior at some point, and we see that to be Bitcoin, no? Is something that pinag-usapan na natin kanina. Pero since yung questions very specific to gold, no, in a digital society, in a digital economy, no, holding an asset that is more durable, no, digital, is more attractive than gold, no? Ang previous narrative nga is digital gold, na we're comparing Bitcoin to gold. We call it digital gold, katulad ng title ng book ni Nathaniel Papper na binanggit ni Mike. But this narrative could potentially end at could change also in the medium to long term, na from digital gold, the narrative will be drop gold, no? Drop gold, ibig sabihin, wag na tayo mag-hold ng gold, mag-hold na lang tayo ng Bitcoin. Kasi it makes more sense, no, to hold this asset, no, in an ever increasing digital society and digital economy. At while tayo sa community, we have deep convictions, at the end of the day, it's the market lang naman makakapag-determine yan, eh. Wala naman, again, hindi tayo makakapag-debate dyan. Kasi isa lang ang makakapagsabi niyan, market. But we are seeing positive signs towards this direction. And if we can use one recent example again, is the initiative of BlackRock. And we're not a fan of BlackRock, no? Kasi they're TradFi. But nevertheless, we see that as a good demonstration that even the traditional financial system is now seeing, no, the usefulness of Bitcoin as an asset. Meron pa nga lumabas na mga 'di ba, mga reports ng mga studies, internal research sa BlackRock, even recommending as high as 80% position in Bitcoin, no, as an ideal holding, no, in Bitcoin. So whether you agree with that or not, that still demonstrates to you na mas marami na ang nakakakita ng advantages of Bitcoin, no, as an asset.
Ayun.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Nice
much
answer.
dito sa napaka-informative webcast that we have with Ramon and Rafael. Again, thank you so yung expertise nyo on this. Ramon, you were raising your hand.
Yeah. I want to add, because Rafael's answer was so nice, and also I saw a comment that I would partially like to address with this one. So what makes me bullish also are meeting like fellow Bitcoiners or people just interested in Bitcoin. There's this notion that there are not many developers in Bitcoin, and I think I've realized now, because I answered this 2 weeks ago dun sa event that last June, July 27, diba? And I realized what I didn't like about my answer. And I think what I should have said was there are a lot of developers in Bitcoin.
Ramon, nakamute ka ata. Nakamute yung mute.
Kanina pa?
Hindi, yung the last part. You mentioned na parang there are actually a lot of developers in this space.
Yeah, there are a lot of developers, but the people who build on Bitcoin, they tend not to build things that look like a blockchain. So walang sariling token, and that's why, like, people who are used to crypto, that's what they see a lot. Pero you could see like things that came out of the Bitcoin space and built by Bitcoiners are things like Nostr. That's I think nag-shift yung mic ko, so baka bumago yung sound. Am I still clear?
Yeah.
Clear enough. Okay, yeah. So there are a lot of things being built, but they don't have their own token. They don't look like a blockchain. Nostr is an example, and I'm quite excited about what Nostr could be. People think parang Twitter lang siya, but it could be so much more.
Ayun. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ramon and Rafael. we reached the conclusion of this insightful and informative session about Bitcoin and Bitcoin 101, Bitcoin Q&A with our Bitcoin advocates, Bitcoin educators Ramon and Rafael. I would like to thank also the audience. Yung participation nyo throughout this particular webcast that we have has been very nice and maganda na parang na ano natin yung mga na pounds for natin yung mga questions. Parang nagkaroon tayo ng mga follow-up questions to Ramon and Rafael, which I would say na parang wala rin do sa question sheet na meron ako right now. So special thanks to Beachers for supporting this webcast, yung mga prices natin. So Ramon and Rafael, if you have final words, and where can people find you and connect to you guys? So we begin with Attorney Rap.
Okay. For me, final takeaway, baka pwedeng bumati na lang ako. I would just like to greet my wife, Hazel, and yung kapatid ko, si Luis, kasi nakita ko siya na nag-join. No? So, hello, see you this weekend.
Wow.
And where can people follow me? Follow me at Rafael Padilla at OnlyFans. Oo. Hindi, ano na lang, kung naka-block ang OnlyFans is ano na lang, Twitter na lang at Farcovlo. Oo. Thank you
Ayun.
very much
And
again, BitPinas and CryptoPH.
ayun. Thank you so much, Rafael. And Ramon, may OF ka din ba?
Na-close na eh. Naban na ako.
Closed.
Oo.
Where can people find you and any
Yeah, R
final
Tayag
words?
too. Alam ko pinost mo dun sa graphic. So R Tayag on Twitter. And if you look at my profile, may link ako doon to a Noster pub key, the really long string. And if you're curious, check it out. Also, you can connect with me there. And my meetup once a month, you mentioned it. So you could go to meetup. If you follow me on Twitter, I post about it. Pero if you search for Bitcoin meetup sa meetup.com, makikita mo yon.
Ayun. Again, thank you so much to our guests. Thank you so much to our audience. I hope this session has provided you with knowledge and tools to explore more about Bitcoin and crypto in general. And please do not forget to follow BitPinas on our on Facebook and all other social channels that we have, and for future updates on our webcast, which we will have again next week. No, and we'll also have prizes, another special guest na people are I really very familiar now with the crypto community and the Web3 community. So again, don't forget to follow BitPinas. Thank you again for joining us today. Stay curious, stay informed, and until next time. Maraming salamat. So thank you.
Salamat.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mon.
Thank you.
Salamat, Raf, Mike.